The Transition Monitoring Group, the TMG, has commended efforts of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the conduct of the just concluded Osun governorship election. In a statement titled Post-Election Statement on the Gubernatorial Election in Osun State, July 2022, signed by its chairman, Awal Ibrahim Musa Rafsanjani, TMG praised the electoral body for complying with the provisions of the Electoral Act, especially on improving inclusivity by providing assistance technology for persons with disabilities and for efficient election logistics arrangement, which saw early deployment of officials and materials to the polling units across the state. While the group also praised the media and the people of the state for an inclusive and participatory election in the state. And to discuss this further, we have with us the INEC Commissioner of Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye. Thank you so much for joining us. There's no better person, really, to help us, do this appraisal. First off, congratulations, because, commendations have been pouring in, both from UK authorities. Now you have the TMG, CSOs, to a very large extent, have been praising, INEC's conduct of the Osun election last Saturday. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much.
But the UK government, in commending INEC, raised a very, very salient point, almost like jumping the gun, talking about this now, vote buying, that the INEC and appropriate authorities need to do something seriously about the issue of vote buying. Let's start from there, and then we can, go into other salient points. What exactly, how does this come really to INEC? And do you even have any tools to check vote buying?
Well, the issue of vote buying is a matter of serious concern to the Nigerian people. It's also a matter of serious concern to the Independent National Electoral Commission. Based on our own projections and based on our own processes and procedures, we have also taken measures to stem the issue of vote buying. Now, one of the measures we have taken is to train our ad hoc staff on the proper positioning of the voting cubicles and the proper positioning of the ballot boxes to make it impossible for vote buyers to know how a voter has voted. Because if you don't position the voting cubicle well, it is possible for vote buyers to monitor how a voter has voted. So that's one of the things we have done to proper positioning of the voting cubicles. We also made it illegal, so to say, for voters to go into the voting compartment with electronic gadgets that can show how they voted. So we have done that. At the national level, we've had the meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security and also replicated it at the state level on how to stem the issue of vote buying. So based on this, the ICPC, the EFCC, the various security agencies did deploy to the various polling units on election day. And that is why the issue of vote buying was not as brazen as we had it in previous elections. So it was not as brazen as we had it in the Osun governorship election.
But there were still issues of vote buying, in spite of the measures that you put in place. There
were still issues of vote buying. So I think that one of the things we need to do is to name and shame those who buy votes. Right. But because some of these people are exploiting the vulnerabilities of our people, exploiting the poverty of our people in order to buy votes. But in this business, there's a willing buyer and a willing seller. So I think that voter education and aggressive enlightenment is also desirable in order for us to get our people to know the implications of selling their votes.
How much of that did you do in the build-up to the Osun election? You head the voter education department of INEC, and when I asked our guests yesterday about that voter education aspect of INEC, what they said was it wasn't even up to par at all, almost ineffective, according to them.
Well, you must understand the remit of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Our remit is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. And what we do is to make sure that the Nigerian voters understand the processes and procedures of the Independent National Electoral Commission in terms of what we are supposed to do. And in this business, we partnered with the various civil society groups and organizations who were even in Osun. Some of them were there a month before the election, trying to mobilize people, trying to sensitize people. And our state office was also very, very effective in terms of jingles on the radio, on television, and using civil society groups and organizations based in Osun in terms of trying to educate people on the voting processes and voting procedures. So in terms of voter education, in terms of enlightenment, we were effective. But you know, we have to also partner with the National Orientation Agency and all the other agencies that are concerned with voter education. We are not where we want to be, but we keep on improving with every election.
The NOA, let's even talk about that a bit. How effective really have they been as a partner in terms of voter education?
Well, they have been doing their best, but you know, some of our government agencies have to perform in accordance with the type of funding available to them. If they don't have adequate funding, if they don't have adequate logistics, if they don't have the wherewithal to perform optimally and effectively, there's no way they can perform optimally and effectively. But especially at the local government level, we've been partnering with them, and they have been effective at the local government levels.
All right, if you say so. But let's you know, there are a whole lot of other issues that we need to look at. Of course, we would have had this chat yesterday, but you had told Arise News that you were looking into the elections, you know, the conduct of it and all of that. What are your findings?
Well, our findings in relation to the Osun governorship election is to the effect that we did very well in terms of our logistics. We deployed very early because we felt and we know that early deployment is key to the effective confidence of the voters in the electoral process. If the voters go to the polling unit early in the morning and see that our ad hoc staff are already there, they tend to relax. But if the voters are there before our ad hoc staff arrive, the implication is that when the ad hoc staff arrive, they will be nervous, they will be struggling to set up. So we bridge that particular gap. In over 95% of the polling units, our ad hoc staff were at the various polling units before 7 a.m. in the morning. And that was key to the success of the election. So early deployment is key to the success of any election. We also made sure that we audited the equipment and the materials we have in our local government offices on time, to be sure that we have adequate number of cubicles, to be sure that we have ballot boxes and every other material required for the conduct of the election. So we audited all these things and made sure that all of them were batched to the 332 registration areas in Osun State, even 2 weeks before the election. So that was also very, very effective in terms of our deployment. And so we made sure that in terms of our logistics, in terms of getting the transportation required, that all these things were in place way ahead of the election.
Great, and I'm glad you touched on that because you were on the morning show last week.
Yes.
And one of the questions you were asked about the NURWT, that's the National Union of Road Transport Workers, being the ones who move sensitive and non-sensitive materials of INEC across the country. In the states, when it pertains to the states, is still the same NURTW. And the question is, don't you have concerns about circumventing, you know, the NURT circumventing whatever the desires of INEC is, which is to make sure that this, you know, vital materials don't, you know, go the wrong way or get into the wrong hands. They're not infiltrated. What are the chances, what are the guarantees that the NURTW does not have any kind of inclination towards any political party, that it will, you know, carry out this very sensitive job in a way that is satisfactory to INEC and to all Nigerians, for that matter?
Yes, there are concerns about their inclination and their political preferences. But I think that it is important to understand the type of relationship we have with the National Union of Road Transport Workers. What they carry out is a supervisory role in terms of our electoral process. The National Union of Road Transport Workers does not have vehicles. Those that have vehicles are the National Association of Road Transport Owners and also the individual drivers. So we have an MOU with the National Union of Road Transport Workers, but we sign individual contract with each vehicle owner, each vehicle, each provider, to make sure that they provide the right type of vehicle, and also to make sure that we provide them and know who they are. So at the local government level, we sign individual contracts with the drivers. But at the national level, we have an MOU with the National Union of Road Transport Workers. So what we do with them on election day is that we embed them both in our state office and local government offices, so that they can supervise the drivers. If a driver has not arrived on time, they know who the driver is. If a driver has not delivered, they know who the driver is. So that is the only role they play. So there are concerns relating to the possibility that they may be partisan, but in terms of the movement of materials, for every...
Recall that in Osun, in the case of Osun, there was an NURTW person or official, I don't know the word to use,
yes,
that was arrested.
Yes, I'm aware.
Great.
But I'm telling you the way we move. The moment a vehicle leaves the state office heading to any local government, we track that particular vehicle. If the vehicle stops along the way, we know that the vehicle has stopped. Until the vehicle reaches its destination, we monitor that particular vehicle.
Do the drivers know that the vehicles are tracked?
They know that the vehicles are tracked, but they don't move alone. They also move with security and also move with our officials. So they know that the vehicles are tracked. And we have not had any incident where a vehicle that we have tracked moved out of the route that has been mapped out for it. So we understand some of these things, but the truth of the matter and the main issue is that they are the ones who can provide the number of vehicles we need to move our materials and our personnel. In Osun State, we have a total of 3,763 polling units. These materials have to go to these polling units. Our personnel have to go to these polling units. And they are the ones who can provide these vehicles at each local government area to move these materials and also engage in reverse logistics in relation to these materials. And so for now, I think that they are our best bets. We monitor them properly, and we also make sure that nothing goes wrong. At the local government level.
Is INEC looking at other options? There are logistics companies that are registered, very professional, who really should be handling this.
Some of these logistic companies, how many vehicles do they have? In a general election, we are going to move materials and personnel to over 176,000 locations and move them back to over 176,000 locations. Not only that, we're also going to move materials and personnel to the 8,809 registration areas in the country and the 774 local government areas. So it's a huge logistics issue, and we want a situation where we can rely on the people who have been doing this work over a period of time. We have not had issues relating to sabotage of our processes based on their partisanship. So far, we have not had that issue. And since we have not had that issue, if something is not broken, why do you want to go and begin to experiment on it? So we have not had any serious issue.
But are there contingency plans in the event that you have a breach of the agreement between INEC and the NURTW?
No.
Do you have any plan B? Do you have other plans in place, just in case?
Yes, we have plans in place.
Right.
But I'm saying...
Especially as we look into 2023?
Yes, we have plans in place. At the level of the local government, the drivers are hired. We know the number of vehicles we need for each local government. And we sign contracts with those drivers. And those drivers are monitored. Now, we also have our own vehicles that we can use to intervene in case there's a breach, in case any driver does not turn up. And that's exactly what we do. So we mop up all our vehicles from various sources, put our vehicles in order, so that the moment there's any issue, the moment there's any breach, we can intervene and intervene decisively. And so we take all these things into consideration. And I want to assure Nigerians that we're on top of the situation, and we are not going to allow anything to go wrong with the 2023 general election. Okay,
that's great, because CSOs, I mean civil society groups, they've been saying, look, replicate what you did in Ekiti and Osun in 2023, and it's reassuring that you're saying that. But are there lessons learned that you'd want to improve upon in 2023? When you look back at Anambra, for example, November of last year, look back at Ekiti and now Osun. Where are the challenges that you discovered that you would want to improve upon, come 2023?
This commission wants to complete and conclude the CVR on time. If we're able to complete the continuous voters registration exercise on the 31st day of July, that will enable us to display the voters register for claims and objections. It will also enable us to carry out deduplication to remove multiple and double registrants, and also enable us to get these cards, the permanent voters cards, in the hands of those who are going to vote during the 2023 elections. The moment we do that, we will now look at the size of our polling units, and break them up in such a way that we can have some level of parity and some level of equity at the level of the polling units. There are some polling units that are in contiguous areas. Some of them have 50 registered voters, and some of them have over 2,000 registered voters. Yes, we cannot have what they call equality in the sense of equality, but we can make it in such a way that no polling unit will have more than 1,000 registered voters. I'm
glad you mentioned that, because yesterday was an issue that came up, overcrowding of some polling units, in other words, uneven distribution of, voters. And it happened in Osun. At least, the observers saw that.
Yes, we are aware of that.
Right.
But what we did in Osun is that in any polling unit where we have more than 750 registered voters, we deployed an additional beavers. The polling units that had over 2,000 registered voters had 3 beavers deployed to those places in order to obviate the issue of overcrowding and the issue of and to obviate the issue of crowd control. But for going forward to the 2023 general election, we want to make sure that, for instance, if you have a school where we created additional polling units, and one polling unit has 2,000 registered voters, another one has 50, another one has 20, we can redistribute the voters within that particular enclave to make sure that there's some level of parity in terms of the number of voters in each polling unit. So the moment we complete the CVR and conclude the CVR, it will be we will now know what we have and then how to redistribute them. So we are looking into that, and it's a key issue. Secondly, we also want to make sure that we carry along persons with disability in our planning processes, and also to make them feel a sense of inclusivity in the electoral process. So we have we are ramping up the procurement of magnifying glasses. We are also making sure that we provide the Braille ballot guide for those of them that need Braille ballot guide. So we are going to include them in the electoral process.
Great.
In the Osun election, 35 of them, persons with disability who are doing their national youth service, served as either presiding officers or assistant presiding officers. So this process of inclusivity is one of the key issues that we are looking at going forward to the 2023 general election.
Fantastic. Now let me bring an issue that I came across recently, that corruption is having its way even within INEC. Let me cite the example of what happened in Anambra as people were trying to pick their PVCs. They were asked to pay a certain amount of money, about 20,000, to register, to vote. Is INEC aware of that? And if you are, what exactly are you putting, in place to check such excesses?
I supervise.
Have you arrested any, culprits?
Let me say this.
Right.
I supervise Anambra State. The moment we saw that report, I got in touch with the administrative secretary of the commission in Anambra, because as you know, the resident electoral commissioner for Anambra State has completed his tour of duty and left on the 6th day of July. So when the story broke, I got in touch with the administrative secretary of the commission, who also got in touch with the electoral officer for the local government involved, for I think Onitsha North local government. And the electoral officer gave a written response to that trending video. Now, one of the issues he raised was the fact that the commission operates from Onitsha North local government, and we have only 2 rooms in that place. And the local government insists that the commission must close operations at 5 p.m. every day. So the implication is that the IVED that is being used for voters registration will not be charged overnight. So what happened was that the officers carried the IVED from where they were stored in the local government into the office to go and charge these IVET machines. And the voters, the registrants, those who want to register, we are insisting that the IVET should be brought out when the IVET cannot be functional at that point in time. That was exactly what happened. And we carried that investigation in relation to this. I think that...
Are you saying no?
Nothing of that sort happened.
Nigerians
should be wary, because what normally happens now is that somebody goes to a place, is doing something, and then encounters a challenge, and then the person turns around and begins to make a video, and then begins to broadcast, and begins to share it up and down, giving the impression that something that did not happen has happened. In the places where there was a place in Benue, I also supervised Benue, where we had information that people were being charged money. Right. We investigated, we found out that it was true. They said, oh, the people were being charged money for lamination. And immediately, the officers involved were transferred and queried. And we have set up disciplinary procedures against them.
What kind of disciplinary measures are in place for such situations?
The commission follows the civil service rules and regulations.
Okay.
First, the moment somebody is accused of any infraction, you have to query the person. Right. Thereafter, you set up an investigation committee and then make a determination of the type of infraction the person has been engaged in. There are various categories of punishment for infraction. So we follow the rules meticulously to make sure that we don't fall foul of the civil service rules and regulations. Is
imprisonment part of the...
No.
None?
No.
Okay.
But if an officer has committed a criminal offense or an electoral offense, we will not hesitate to proceed against such an officer and prosecute such an officer.
Are you saying none of that has happened under our next watch?
In terms of an infraction that has criminal elements?
Yes.
Not yet.
Okay, that's interesting to note. Voter suppression, that's also an issue that came up yesterday. As a matter of fact, one of the guests cited a personal experience that she had in Lagos.
Yes.
That she went to, register, but she was not allowed because she was a person of a certain name and a certain tribe. Are such things filtering into INEC? And what are you doing about it?
When that incident happened, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and some national commissioners went to Lagos.
Okay.
And we met with the resident electoral commissioner for Lagos State. And the incident was investigated. Now, I think that one of the things that came across from that particular incident was that in some of the markets in Lagos, the market leaders just woke up one morning and ordered that the markets should be closed, and that readmission into the market will only be done on presentation of a permanent voter's card. So over 10,000 individuals descended on one machine, just one, in a day. So there was altercation, there was confusion on the streets.
Isn't that where INEC should have come in to provide enough machines? Since you had such a large, willing group of people who wanted to register.
We cannot provide machines if 10,000 people from one market descend descend on a local government. There's no way you can handle it. Let me say this. This voters registration exercise started on the 28th day of June 2021. And as this thing was going on, sometimes we record one single individual a day who comes to register. For 1 year, we have been going on with this thing. So for a market leader to just wake up one morning, lock up the market, and say 10,000 people should go to one machine that can only register 200 people in a day to go and register, that's a recipe for disaster. So what we have done,
a Herculean task for INEC.
Yes, what we did was that we had discussion with these market leaders. We took the number of their members and so on and so forth, and we deployed machines differentially to those places and told them, on so and so day, we can register 1,000 of your members. Okay. So don't lock up the market. Just get 1,000 people to come and register.
Did that solve the problem?
It solved the problem.
Okay, good to know.
Now
Very
in
good.
Lagos,
yes.
we are now begging people to come and register.
Okay, let me put this in before we let you go. We have barely 2 minutes. 20 INEC resident electoral commissioners are leaving soon. President Buhari is yet to append pen to paper on that. How is that likely to affect 2023 elections? I mean, 20 recs out of 36.
Well, 11 left on the 6th day of July, okay, and 9 will leave on the 15th day of August this year. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission is on top of the situation. The appointment of resident electoral commissioners is the responsibility of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He makes the recommendation to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly does the confirmation. The chairman has assured that the responsible authorities are on top of the situation, and very soon something will happen.
Or are some recs likely to be retained?
There's a possibility, yes.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Chairman Voter Education, Festus Okoye. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.